Welcome back to the Keep Your Torch Lit finale of season 2, guys.
Wow.
The finale.
Finale.
Well, Heike, this is the finale of the finale, where we're talking to the winner, because we're all winners, but only one of us is a true winner. So,
yeah.
A lot of who she actually isn't really shown because she didn't film too many confessionals, and she was learning the ropes before. So I think in this episode we'll really get to see a little more about who she is.
Wait, so I guess how are we able to get this person on a podcast? Do they know what a podcast is? Is that I feel like that's some modern technology that they might not be able to understand as well.
But she's pretty adaptable, so I think she'll get the hang of it pretty fast.
She'll learn it very quickly. Yeah. At the beginning she might call it the talks, but after a while she'll be like, "Oh, this isn't just the talks. This is a podcast."
This is the talks.
Let's turn on our time machine, Jack sound effects.
Hello.
Welcome to the talks.
Oh I'm starstruck right now.
What are you talking about? I am starstruck right now. This is insane. Wow.
Oh my gosh, Mallory. How have you been doing? What have you been up to? I know you're crazy busy these days.
Oh my gosh. So I just finished my first semester of medical school.
Oh my gosh.
It was very whelming, I have to say. Learned a lot, saw a lot, and there's, years and years more of that. So, yeah, it's good.
Wait, Mallory, you are actually going to the same you're in the same medical school as Brittany, right?
I am in the same medical school as Brittany, and you know what another crazy thing is?
What?
I did not see this firsthand, but she told me that she saw Cam interviewing Cam from season 1.
Whoa!
Really?
Yeah,
What?
yeah. So I don't know him at all, so I don't really know what his decision is looking like for that. But I mean, there's a chance that our school will have, I don't know, seasons worth of Survivor players at it. So that would be pretty
crazy.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Like an iconic group of 3, that would be.
Yeah.
Mallory, how many more years do you have left of medical school?
So it's a 4-year medical school program. So 3.5 more years from now. And then you have residency on top of that. And depending on which specialty you choose, it's anywhere from 3 to 8 years, more training. And then if you subspecialize, more training beyond that. And so I'm pretty much not going to be in charge of myself until I'm 35. So that's great.
Oh my gosh. I was talking to Brittany the other day, and she was like, Mallory is the smartest person I know.
No.
So you must be killing it.
No, you learned all of Survivor in one.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, what is more difficult, learning Survivor while you're playing it, or learning med school?
Honestly, that is a really not totally horrible comparison. It's a pretty steep learning curve for both. So I think how you learn it is a little bit different, and one is a little more painful than the other, but yeah.
Which one's more painful?
I honestly, it's a toss-up depending on the day. Depending on what shenanigans Maggie has in store, depending on how many times the plan switches and all of that. Yeah.
Well, the thing is, when you were signing up for the show, you didn't what did you think you were signing up for?
I mean, it's kind of the running joke, but I really did think that it was going to be a very outdoorsy, making fires, and I didn't think that we were going to be killing squirrels on campus. I didn't take it that far, but I definitely thought that there was going to be more of a outdoorsy survival component to it. Mm-hmm. I did not anticipate it being it's a social experiment, right? I mean,
yeah.
And especially in a university setting when you have technology and all the other things because I think that the real show is probably more like what I was expecting, but obviously on a college campus, you can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
I do remember how I feel like you referenced a lot the fact that you didn't like that cell phones were a part of Survivor.
Oh my gosh. Well, just you never know when someone's screenshotting something totally out of context, or
I know.
You miss a phone call because you're taking an exam, and it's I think that
Yeah.
that
That's
transcends
true.
Survivor. I think that phones in our culture just pose a lot of weirdness and complicated stuff that maybe is unnecessary, but yeah.
Yeah, because
And
you were
agree.
around before phones even existed. So
I know, I
you've
know.
kind of seen how
Seriously,
it's.
when all we had was carrier pigeons back in the day, it was so much easier, man. Yeah.
Yeah, so Mallory has been listening to our podcast for
I
a while.
religiously
Yeah.
follow this show, guys.
Oh.
I only watched from both seasons of Survivor Michigan. I've only watched the last half of the finale episode of our season because I'm too embarrassed to watch anything else. But I listened, guys, like that's why I feel so starstruck, because I'm such a fan of this podcast. It's seriously, like I usually listen to it when I'm grocery shopping, and it's such great stress relief. So I'm just like listening
incredible.
to, yeah. Yeah,
I love that.
Maybe I vacuum a little bit. Yeah, it's all stuff.
I'll like edit it and then I'll listen to it the next day at work, and I'm like, this is pretty funny.
I know. Yeah, you guys are hilarious, and I'm really glad that you can acknowledge that. You guys are awesome. So, yeah.
Thanks,
I
Mallory.
remember, Mallory, how we had I think it was last April, we were doing a premiere of the rough cut of episode 1 of season 2. And I remember that you came to that, and you mentioned something about like, oh yeah, like, are you going to continue to keep your torch lit for season 2? And I was like, oh, do you know what keep your torch lit is? You're like, yeah, I've listened to every episode. Like, you were saying how you hadn't watched the show, but you had listened to every episode while you were like doing your runs. And I was like, wow, this is the first time I've ever like ran into somebody that like has watched this, like actually listens to this, and I didn't like know was listening to it. And it made me so happy. Like I was like, oh my gosh, like people are actually listening to this. Like,
oh no, it's awesome. And like, I probably should watch the show. Maybe not our season. I should watch season 1 though. But like, you guys do such a great job of recapping and giving an in-depth analysis. I honestly feel like I get more out of Survivor Michigan listening to this podcast than I would out of watching the show. So
wow,
yeah.
I am. Look,
curious.
Mallory's doing what she does best. She did this during the game too. She really strokes our egos.
Literally, that's all this is. Don't believe a word of it. Mallory,
she's about to stab us.
I'm telling the truth. I swear. I swear. Yeah.
But are you just telling the truth that way? It makes it easier to lie in the future, Mallory.
I mean, again, this is where the game becomes more difficult than medical school, man. It's crap like this that just, constantly tripping me up. So
listening through the podcast for season 2, like I'm curious, like how your perspective changed at having like you went through the game the first time and you're really kind of like learning it for a lot of the time, and then versus like this time you're kind of like, maybe it's not actually watching, but at least like seeing and hearing about like all the different things that were happening, all the different things that went into the game. I'm curious like what that experience was like.
Honestly, it's really like, it really is. I'm sounding so nerdy right now. Like, it really is fun to learn about, honestly. And I feel like I'm learning a lot about, because obviously the only perspective that I have of it from a personal standpoint is my own, but I feel like I'm learning a lot about you guys as well. I mean, it's weird feeling like, this is actually something that Brittany said to me. She's like, I feel closer to you after watching the show. And I feel like I feel, I don't know, really lucky to listen to really educated people talk about something that they know a lot more about than I do. And I really relate to something that I think Bailey said when she was on the podcast about how what you kind of get sucked into your own game, and you sometimes feel like, was I even playing this game? Like, all of these things that happened that I had no idea. And I think the three of you, especially before the merge, when I didn't talk to any of you at all, like, I would never have known all of these things that happened had you not articulated them. So I don't know, like, it's fun. It feels like a little passion project almost to figure out what the heck this experience is. So
yeah, definitely.
Have you been taking notes in the journal that Maggie gave you? You know?
Oh my gosh, so I am a journaler. Like, I keep a journal normally, and I still have Maggie's journal. I have not written anything except for my final tribal speech in it. Wow. But she actually did some really cool little sketches in it, like of projects that she wanted to make. So I flipped through those. But I still have that journal. This was one of those moments when I felt like it was actually really nice to not have a comparison to the real show, because I didn't think that, I mean, I understand how that could have come off as like really dopey to write out a final tribal speech. I don't really know if that's like customary for the show, but I just really wanted to make sure that I said what I wanted to say. And it felt like the best way to do that was to write my thoughts down ahead of time, just to make sure that I didn't miss anything or ramble. I really didn't want to have a monologue and like have the Oscar music playing in the background. Like, God, when is this girl going to shut up? So that's why those were my main motivations, like wanting to make sure that I said everything that I wanted to say and also wanting to keep it, I don't know, focused and concise. And that was my main, but like, I understand how that could have come off as really canned and cheesy. So
no, I thought it was a good move, especially because Maggie gave you that notebook, and I think she really liked seeing you use it.
Yeah.
But
it showed that you were like listening to what she said.
Exactly.
But this might be kind of jumping ahead, but I remember going into Final Tribal, the only vote that I felt like I had was Mike's, because he told me basically ahead of time, when he kind of knew that he was going to be voted out, he told me that he was going to vote for me if I made it to the end. So his was the only, and I knew Chidi wasn't going to vote for me because Nick had been kind of the only one that had tried to make a relationship with her. Maggie and Nick I knew were really close. Abby I didn't think would vote for me just because we had no relationship. And Bree I thought would also vote for Nick because of the relationship that they had. So honestly, going into Final Tribal, I was only talking to the three of you. Because
that's smart.
No, seriously, like in my mind, I was like, I am talking to Sarah, Jack, and Sam because those are the only votes that I feel like are up for grabs in any way.
Right.
And so even though like the journal was a gesture to Maggie, I did not feel in any way that was going to sway her decision away from Nick at all. So
you definitely did sway. You pretty much swayed
it worked
the three of us.
Yeah.
And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But let's start from like more of the beginning.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk a little bit about like your relationship with Nick and how that all started. Like where did that loyalty build from?
Yeah. So he kind of did what you would expect from Nick. He kind of reached out right after the first challenge and we got tribes. He reached out to, I think, most everyone on our tribe via GroupMe and just started a conversation with me. And I was like, oh, this is, because I mean, so I knew after the first challenge, okay, this is not fire making and, you know, hut building and all of that kind of stuff. So I figured that much out.
Yeah, honestly, so you should be glad that it wasn't that, because otherwise you definitely would have lost Lucy at Final Tribal Council.
She would have roasted me. Oh my gosh. Honestly, she probably would have shot me or something. I don't know. But so I didn't know much still, but I was kind of weeding things out. I was like, okay, it's not this, it might be this kind of thing. And so I was like, okay, I don't know enough to be strategic. So but I know enough to know that making friends is probably a good idea. So Nick reached out, said, hey, how you doing? I mean, it was a pretty casual thing. And then I just responded, how are you doing? And we just kind of started, we didn't really talk about the game very much. I was just asking him about his family and like, what are your hobbies? I mean, it was a very just like how you make friends with someone and just kind of built from there. And then kind of, after the Daniel vote, I felt like was when we really solidified an alliance per se, like a game alliance and not just an outside of game friendship. So I would probably mark that as the moment, because he was planning to tell me about the Daniel vote before the vote happened, but we were meeting in the union, and then of course Daniel walks in and sees Nick and is like, oh hey, we should talk. And so Nick walks up to the little table that I was sitting at with Daniel, and I was like, okay, whatever. So he didn't get the chance to tell me about it ahead of time, but we met after the vote. I think we filmed a confessional for that. And he was kind of explaining the mindset and the paranoia that people were having, and that's when I feel like we kind of bonded on a game level. And then I think it just kind of grew from there, and then looped in Mike, and then Nick and Mike kind of started not liking each other, and then I don't remember when we made like the blood oath not to vote for each other. I can't point to that happened, but I would guess sometime a couple weeks before the merge maybe was when that happened.
Okay, so I have a follow-up question then. I'm trying to like see how actually loyal you were to him, in the sense that like during Final 6, if we had tried to get Nick out instead of Jack, but we split the votes, and you didn't have to vote for him, you would have voted for, like, Lucy or someone. Yeah. Would you have told Nick about the plan?
I don't really think that I would have needed to, because ever since all the post-merge, I think he kind of felt like he was going home most every week.
Yeah.
So I think that he probably would have, and he was expressing that to me as well. He was saying, like, I really think I'm in danger of going home. But again, like, this was actually a really interesting point that you guys brought up about my game. And I think maybe even Cooper brought this up, was just that, like, Nick somehow still decided to be friends with me and work with me, even though I kind of said I can't really, and I guess won't really, do anything to save you.
Okay.
And I don't know where that came from. Like, I don't know what I said to make that okay with him, but somehow, because, like, the week when we were thinking about getting him out, but then ended up voting for Jack, but then voting for Sam, that kind of cascade, I remember him being like, I really, really think that I'm going home. And I think that I actually said, I don't think you're wrong. And somehow that was again, I don't know what it is about, like, is it my face that people just, like, trust? I don't know. But, well, I mean, and even, like, with Sarah Avery, when, I kind of straight up told her to her face that questionable leadership abilities on someone. Like, she just was like, oh, Mallory's the nicest person ever. I was like, really?
Yeah.
I don't know where that.
That's really funny.
That is. So yeah.
Yeah, that's true. You didn't really pull any punches necessarily, but you were able to do it in a way where people were still had a very positive view of you afterwards, which I think is something that not a lot of people were able to pull off. And just saying, like, yeah, you're going to go home, basically. And that person's like, oh, Mallory, she's so nice. Like,
such a comforting presence telling me that my game is about to end. Oh, my gosh. Like, ugh, yeah.
I mean, you're able to vote off all three of us, and neither of us really had any ill feelings towards you afterwards. But you wrote down all three of our names.
Yeah.
Cannot deny. Well, yeah. It's weird.
It's funny
I don't know how that happened. Yeah. Well, and that's actually, I've thought about this a lot, especially after listening to the season 1 series of podcasts. I'm realizing more and more everything that happens is completely dependent on the unique set of people that are in the season, because I think if I had played season 1, honestly would not have made it out of week 2 or 3. Like, honestly, like, do you think Leia and Mitch would have been like, oh, that was nice enough to keep around? Like, no, they would have dropped me, like, so quickly. I would have, gosh, Matthew Israel would have had so quickly. Yeah, that, like, nice girl crap would not have flown with that group of people. At least I don't think so.
That's so true. Like, the season totally depends on who's cast and how they interact with each other.
Yeah, totally.
Like,
yeah.
That's actually crazy.
I think you could have been pretty good on Neela, though. Like, if you would have, like, been in Lavana's spot, maybe. Like, replace... Yeah.
But do you think that the Alexes would have been like, oh, yeah, let's... I mean, because they kind of had... Maybe swapped with Kara.
Yeah, I think you could take the place of, like, a Kara or Angela, but then, like, actually be good at the game. No offense.
Yikes.
Yeah. I don't know. I see myself being a lot less able to, I guess, get away with the game or lack of game that I was playing based on, again, like, if Nick doesn't think that I'm well, and I think a lot about, you guys have brought this up a lot too, the difference between Lucy and I, which can be kind of hard to elucidate, I think.
Yeah.
And honestly, it really is just personality on a lot of levels. Like, I think that, honestly, in a lot of ways, I think that she played a much more courageous and bold game than I did. And I think that and a part of that, I think, was because she wasn't in a solid majority alliance for a lot of it. But, I mean, she was playing really hard. People always talk about her slacking, but, I mean, she was doing everything that she could. And I really think that the primary difference between she and I is just perception, which, as it turns out, is pretty valuable in this game.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Well, like, and I think about, like, okay, if Lucy would have been in season 1, would she have totally kicked my butt just because that group of people would have responded differently to her. So, yeah.
Wow.
I do think that the interesting thing about the perception aspect is like sometimes the perception does reflect reality and sometimes it doesn't. But like it doesn't really matter if it's if the perception is right or not, because that's, perception is really all that people are going to base their vote on in the end, you know.
Yeah.
So that's also like the thing that makes it even more like kind of tricky.
I guess to make it melodramatic, I feel like that was kind of the downfall of Ohana, is that a lot of people, because you guys were able to have so many strategic and deep thoughts, I feel like because you guys were such forward thinkers and such strong players, the line between what was real and what was not real kind of got a little blurred. And I'm so kind of captivated by the ambition or the way that I could go or all the options that I could or want to have, that
That's true.
I kind of like, I would have been an easy vote to just throw it on Mallory, whatever. But
instead we were so, like, everyone just seemed so threatening, and we were like eager to make these like intense moves. I don't know.
None of us really had anything to gain by voting you out, and we were thinking like everything we were doing is like, how do I win
for
this
our game?
vote? Like what puts me in the better position for next week and the next week? And, like, it never made sense for any of us to like want to cut you. So I don't think you were even ever really brought up.
Yeah.
Right.
No. Was your name never written down until
it was never written down?
Yeah,
until the
there
end.
you go.
Never.
So
well, and that was so. I honestly feel like one of my most strategic moments that definitely didn't really get shown because I didn't really film or talk about it on the show. But so when Sarah came to Lucy and I right before the Final Four vote, I remember thinking I had, I guess, suspicions that it might not have been real, but I definitely did not see clear through it. I definitely wasn't in my mind like, oh, this is total crap, whatever. But I really remember thinking, because Sarah, one of the things that you said when you were kind of doing your speech to us at the beginning was, if you don't do this, well, one, like, I think there was a vote steal or something, but you said that you were going to vote for me. And I remember, because I was pretty confident that I was going to make it to Final Tribal at that point, and I remember being really set on the fact that I cannot go in, like, one of my main selling points that I want to be able to deliver at Final Tribal is that I hadn't gotten any votes, and even though your vote for me would not have sent me home, I would not have been able to make, I think, as strong of a point had you voted for me.
Right.
And so I felt like it was to my advantage to go along with you, one, to be loyal to Nick, but also two, I remember feeling like I really cannot afford to have anyone write my name down. So that was kind of my main motivation for not, because I honestly feel like if I was feeling really cocky and said, I don't think this is real, I feel like, I don't know exactly where your mind was, but I was worried that you would have voted for me. I get it. Yeah, just to be like, you jerk. I mean, it wouldn't have made a difference in the outcome, but I remember being like, I cannot let her know because I really don't want her to write my name down, even if it won't send me home. So that was a lot of rapid thinking all at once. So,
do you think your vote for me at Final Four, like, what % loyalty to Nick was that, and what %? It was like all loyalty.
What % loyalty versus like self-service? I mean, we can call a spade there. I would say probably 70% loyalty, 30% self-service.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right after I revealed it was fake, you told Lucy you didn't believe it for a second, which was like really fast thinking.
Yeah, I was like, okay, I need to really pretend.
Right.
Like, this is a thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I remember, gosh, Akshay was like the producer that I always looked at during tribals, because he was just very expressive, because Mitch was always pretty stoic and always had his phone right up in front of his face, so I couldn't really see him. And Matthew, he was probably having 1,000 thoughts and not
it's
whatever.
Impossible to read that mind.
Matthew smirks. Yeah. Matthew also smirks.
He's smirking.
Yeah. Not as much as Cooper.
Right,
yes,
right.
Definitely a smirker. And if Liz was there, she always just had a really like motherly,
right,
nice expression on her face. And Brittany was always looking kind of nervous and whatever. But I remember Akshay was always very in the moment and reacting to. He was reacting to it like I perceived a viewer would, and so I was always kind of looking at him, looking at the situation, and saying like, okay, I need to make sure that I'm managing Akshay's response to what I'm doing. I mean, managing, I guess. So, and I remember doing that to Lucy and him like giving me a wink, and I was like, oh yes, like this is the right thing. This is so good. So yeah, he gave me a lot of disapproving looks over the course of the season. So this was literally a crowning achievement for me. Yeah.
Wow. I love that.
Honestly, I'm a few ticks above Whelmed right now, I have to say.
I'm like I'm a couple, like, I'm like 5 ticks above Whelmed right now.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a lot of ticks.
Yeah.
So,
no, because I was going to say, one of the things that I do think, honestly, was one of the very big factors and why I decided to vote for you was that you really played off like you saw through Sarah's move, which it sounds like you mostly did anyways. But, like, instead of it being maybe, like, a 50-50 or 70-30, you played it off like you 100%, like, oh, I knew it was fake the whole time. And, like, for me, I was thinking, like, wow, this is somebody who literally knew nothing about Survivor. I had to ask the producer what Tribal Council was at the beginning of the season. Because something that we all, like, had known was, like, a thing that had happened. And then, like, we got to the end, I'm like, you literally, like, read through Sarah's move. And then, like, the way that you were able to play off, like, oh, yeah, I totally thought it was fake. I totally knew it. I was like, that's, like, the ultimate growth. Like, to me, to go from literally, like, not knowing anything to reading through that at the very end was, like, in my mind, proof that you had, like, kind of gone from, Nick was kind of like a teacher and you were, like, a student. And you had really, like, kind of been the point where the student outsmarts, like, the teacher almost. Yeah. Like, that's kind of the way I saw it. And I was like, dang, like, that's big.
I can't even express how shocked I was when it actually tied, because I really thought it was going to be like, I just got Nick out, so I wasn't even like in the mindset to be doing a tiebreaker. Like, I did have a little notebook I kept throughout where I wrote down a bunch of stuff, like tiebreaker type things, but I didn't have like everything they asked on there. But I was also going in rattled because I thought I was for sure like had you guys tricked. And so I just like that shock, and then like Final Tribal being less than 24 hours after that, you like pretty much had my vote. I'd say you like 90% had my vote going into Final Tribal because of that.
Yeah, that's really cool. Well, and I honestly, like, because I was going in very focused on the three of you, not only because I felt like you were the wild cards, that your votes were kind of up for grabs, but also, I mean, and I'm really not trying to come off as like a butt kisser right now. I really did, but I really did find the three of your games the most intricate and respectable, and I think I would, like, if I had persuaded one of you or two of you to vote for me, I think I would have felt like it felt really gratifying that people who I respected so much thought that, I guess, felt that way on some level about me. I mean, I don't think to the same level that you felt about each other's games, because I don't think that we were at the same, I definitely don't think I was ever at the level that the three of you were. But the fact that you respected my game enough to vote for me at Final Tribal, I was really humbling and really awesome. And I'm not just saying that because I'm talking to you or because of all the things. And my mom has been watching the whole season.
Oh wow!
And then she, like, because during the game I didn't really talk about it a whole lot with people outside of it, just because it was kind of a lot. Yeah. But no, she actually said that at the end that it was so cool, because she also thought the three of you played really amazing games and you were her favorite characters too. And she was like, I was so happy that those three voted for you.
Did she know that you had won before watching it?
Yeah, she knew. Yeah. Well, because she kept asking me, she was like, you'll tell me when you like when / because I kept telling her, like, I'm going home this week. This is about to be over, all the things. And she's like, oh, how did it go? And I was like, still alive.
That was like, it's okay. My mom, she would be like, how how are you still in? Like, every week she's like, you're definitely gone now, right?
That's so
Yeah,
funny.
you're such a dope. How are you surviving this far? Yeah. Yeah.
But
Good stuff.
another thing
That's
I wanted to
awesome.
ask is so when I met with you individually,
Yeah.
I think it was like our one individual meeting at Panera.
Oh my gosh, yes, Panera. Sitting on the same side of the booth.
Yeah.
Good times. Yeah.
And you told me that you want me to win. Do you remember that? And then you told Jack the
Yeah,
same
you told me
thing.
the same thing. So
Yeah,
you are
yes,
the
I
queen
did.
of butt kissing us.
Well,
and
how much
it
of-
hasn't stopped.
Well, I want to know how much of that was strategy and how much of that was like just your personality, you know? Although it's like intertwined.
So I had really been, I don't know who, honestly, it might have been Maggie that educated me about this, but
Maggie really educated.
Yeah.
I think I was, somehow educated
Professor
by
Maggie,
Maggie,
not Professor
Profe-
Nick.
Professor Maggie, indeed.
Close
Yeah, I
enough.
mean,
Yeah.
she told me a lot about how women in the game are often perceived as, I guess, maybe good social players, but not powerful players in a sense. And so after kind of understanding that was a stigma, it definitely, because again, I think I had a confessional about this literally week 1. Sarah Gallagher asked me, so why do you think you're going to win? And I said,
I don't.
I don't. Yeah. So like, I never at any point ever thought that I was going to win this game. And I thought if I don't win, it would be cool if the glass ceiling got a little crack in it, I guess, in the Survivor universe. And so with Sarah, it really was quite genuine, actually, that if I really do want you to, at the very least, be successful, at the most win this thing. And with Jack,
It was complete bullshit.
not complete, but it was definitely more of a soothing measure. I will own that. I will say it was a lot more to, because was that before or after the vote for Sam?
Do
you remember? I don't.
I feel
It
like
was
it might have been
before
after.
for me.
Or was it before?
For me, it was before.
For Sarah, it was definitely before. But Jack, I feel like our meeting was after.
Yeah, I think it was
that.
after. I think you're right. I think that was kind of the soothe me because I was just, I think that was probably part of the, like, whether it was coordinated or not, but just like part of what was making me feel so good and making me feel like I wanted to play that idol that week and et cetera, et cetera.
And I remember talking to him because I think you were also meeting with Mike too.
Yeah.
And we were both just getting the vibe that you were still pretty shook up. What is the past participle? Shaken? Yeah.
I think it's shaken.
Oh, shook it.
Shooketh.
Shaken.
Yeah. Thou worst shooketh, whatever.
In your native tongue, that's how you say it.
Yes. And so we were both getting that feeling that you still needed a bit of reassurance, especially because we were counting on you playing your idol that week. And so honestly, I really liked most, like, a lot of people I didn't really get to know, but I really did genuinely like really everyone in our season that I spent any amount of time with. And so I think I would have, so there was some genuineness to me saying, like, Jack, I would have been really happy with you as a winner. Because I think that, I think the viewership would also agree that you were a really, you got that superlative, right?
Yeah.
Most deserving player. And so there was genuineness to me saying that I would have been happy with you winning. But it was more of a calming kind of thing than I think with Sarah. Sarah was like extremely genuine though.
Okay.
So, do you think if it was somehow me and Sarah in the end, would you have voted for Sarah? And you were on the jury?
You and Sarah?
Yeah, say me, Sarah, and Lucy. I don't know how this would happen to get there. But,
In what world?
yeah.
That would have been a trip. Yeah, I think I would have. I would have tried to go into Final Tribal with an open mind because I was hoping for that for myself. I was hoping that people would go in with an open mind, so I would have made an effort to do that. But yeah, I think I would have voted for Sarah in the end.
Wow.
Yeah, there was that one video where you and Lucy both like, so Sarah, sorry, but you're the best player, so you need to go.
Yeah.
And Sarah's like, what? No, I'm not.
No.
You're like, what do you mean?
Oh was like, but Nick.
But Sarah, like, I really do. I mean, confidence is a really attractive quality in people, and I really do feel like that was something that like drew me to you. That you came off as very secure in yourself and confident.
Yeah,
in
Mallory
yourself.
and I are getting married, so
Yeah.
else can back off.
Yeah. So, but I just remember being like, wow, that's really awesome that Sarah is not pretending like she doesn't know what's going on. Like, I actually don't know what's going on. That's not pretend. But Sarah, when you know what's going on, saying that you know what's going on. Like, I really respect that. So that was cool.
A lot of takes about Whelmed there.
Yeah, are we going to talk about
Speaking of
how
Whelmed,
the Whelmed
Yeah, speaking of Whelmed.
Yeah. Where
did I start?
Well, again, it's not a unique thing to me. Like, I think it's a thing that exists. Well, I think that a lot of people have noticed that there's overwhelmed and underwhelmed, but there's never just whelmed. Like, where's medium? Like, there's super hot, super cold. Where's room temperature? You know what I mean? So, yeah, it literally, it just spills out, man. That's what my life is. It's just, it really is. And again, it's so strange to me that of all the things that caught on with people, that it was just like one single word thrown off in passing, that people were just like, oh yeah, that you keep saying that. Yeah,
it really caught on. I don't even know. Like, I feel like Akshay also perpetrated it a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that was more out of mockery. Like, you're an idiot. Why did you say that?
Oh no.
And of course,
No.
and of course, the most affectionate of ways. But yeah. I don't know why that caught on the way that it did, but it became kind of a thing. So
yeah,
because I wasn't a fashion icon like Sam, I wasn't Two Idle Tiggles like Jack, and I wasn't. I guess Sarah, you had so many you all had so many iconic things. You're just iconic people.
Thanks, Mallory.
But yeah, so like I don't have like a signature thing about me other than that single word. So that's where
you're also a time traveler. You have that.
Yeah. Well, but isn't there? I mean, there's so many time travelers that you guys talk about, and Pokemon and all the things. Yeah,
we
great.
definitely get off topic a lot together.
No,
which is very fun.
Yeah.
Which is very
well,
fun.
and I love just the recurrent, like, did Lavana tell them to do that?
She controlled everything.
I'm like, yeah, she does control everything. Well, and then Jeremy got roped into it, and
yeah,
so,
you're right.
I take it. I misspoke before. The other thing that I have watched from the season was the Jeremy tribal.
Yeah, you can't miss that.
I can't miss that.
Like, the best tribe of all time.
Yes. Yeah.
When Maggie just sat there.
Mm-hmm.
Seriously. And you want to know actually my favorite part of the entire thing?
What?
Was Sarah Avery popping up with the stick. Because Maggie's kind of like smirking and reaching into her pocket, like waiting for this big moment. And Sarah just jumps up. I sincerely feel like that was the only moment in the game when Maggie was surprised by something. I honestly, that was the one moment when someone did something more crazy and unexpected than her.
She'd like shown up.
Oh my gosh, just seriously, just like the look on her face, I was like, oh my god.
Her moment.
She did not want that to happen.
She was so mad.
Yeah, shout out to Sarah Avery for that iconic moment. Yeah.
You can vote out Maggie, you can strategize against her, you can do whatever you want against Maggie, you can insult her, but never try to steal her moment. That is just
it's like it's kind of like it's like I had my college graduation last weekend. It'd be like if I'm about to walk up on stage for my graduation, have my big moment, and my mom just comes up and then walks across the stage instead and shakes the president's hand. It's like, Mom, you're taking my moment here. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah. And I think I just love, like, she clearly was not expecting it. And I was like, oh my gosh, Maggie can be surprised by something.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Incredible.
Yeah. Well, because she's so used to being the surpriser, you know? I feel like that's something really cool about her. So, yeah. I feel like we were thrown into a very intense, like, there was no, I guess with me and Nick, it was kind of different, but there was no, like, casual get to know you time. It was all jumping into very intense relationships.
Yes.
There was no, like, oh, do you want to get coffee and just talk about our favorite color? Like, it was,
it was like, hey, so final three.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So it's very strange how quickly we were kind of thrown into the pressure cooker and somehow just built relationship really fast, because it's a pretty artificial environment too, even though like we're still in real life, we're still students doing our thing, but it's kind of bizarre.
Yeah. I wanted to go into your relationship with Lucy throughout the game, and like I guess we could start off by like, what were your thoughts on not being told about the Final Five idol? Like,
yeah. Honestly, I wasn't really bothered by not knowing about the idol. I was surprised that she didn't tell me, but I wasn't really bothered by it because honestly, it didn't really affect me that much.
Right.
Being honest.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, I looked at Lucy in a very maternal way, I think, not just because she was a freshman, but because she really seemed like she was eager for something kind of stable after having a lot of shakeup.
Right.
Well, like, pre-marriage, I feel like on Cerulean was honestly pretty, compared to Ohana, definitely pretty tame, I think. Mm-hmm. Not a lot of parity or interest, especially after the swap.
Yeah.
And then going into post-merge, I think that there was Lucy's world kind of got rocked almost every week.
It did.
I felt like she was kind of hanging on by her fingernails most weeks. And so, I don't know, I kind of wanted to take her. But again, it's so strange because I sort of took her under my wing and befriended her in a sense, but never pretended like I was strategizing with her or like really doing a lot, because I was never like, oh, do you want to come to my meeting with Mike so we can all talk about things together, or do you want to hear more about what I've been talking about with other people? Like, there was honestly like a lot of things that she wasn't a part of, and yet she felt very included by me. Because I think like taking those moments to just check in with her afterwards and just like ask if she was okay, it was so strange because normally people asking you about school and college is the worst thing ever, but for some reason with Survivor people, when someone asks you about school, it's like finally a normal conversation.
The less stressful thing in my life, you know.
I can't wait to talk about my exam tomorrow. Like, it's awesome. So like even just asking her like, how's first year engineering going? How are things with your sorority? Like, I feel like she kind of exhaled when we would talk, and I think that she appreciated that. So,
for sure.
So I actually had a question. So you talked earlier about how you're going to the final tribal, wanting to talk to us three. What is it like into your mind at all about like pitching to Lucy, or like did you like think that she could be possibly like somebody who would vote for you, or was that just not like the whole tiebreaker scenario, not something that entered your mind?
Like, did you know how it would work if it tied?
No. No idea. I honestly, what I suspected from the knowledge that I required was that you guys would have a revote. Mm-hmm. I didn't know. Otherwise, and I thought, so I guess and again, I didn't really think through it that much, but I imagine that we would come, there would be a tie. I thought that they might have us like speak again to try and make another case, persuade another person, or maybe even have the jurors talk to each other.
That makes sense.
And do that kind of thing. I did not think that. Well, because I also wondered if, so say it had been, because there are 8 jurors, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So having it be like 3, 3, and 2. So if there had been a tie, but that other person had also gotten votes, would they have still been the deciding vote in that way? Like, I didn't know if it was just because she didn't have any votes, or because she she wasn't in the tiebreak. I did not look that up ahead of time, but.
I mean, because at that point it hadn't happened on The Real Survivor yet, because that was filmed before Go Silent.
That's true.
Released. Yeah,
we were the first ones.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we get to final tribal. I guess we talked a little bit about like your strategy going in.
Yeah.
Clearly it worked really well. I guess, Jack, what point in final tribal did she really sway you think? Any specific question that she answered well, or like? Just like
I can't remember what it was. I remember the moment, but like, I don't think they showed it. But I remember there was one point where like I looked back at like I think Sam. I was just like, I think I'm swayed because I know I'd like come into Final Tribal Council basically like I think I wanted to vote for Mallory, but I wanted you to prove it. And like if Nick came out like really like firing and you didn't do as well, then I think I would have voted for Nick. But like, I think I was just looking for like something to just. Like really like home. It might have even honestly been like after the opening statements. And I think,
I remember looking at you, Jack, when Mallory was talking, and you were like nodding. You were like super into what she was saying. I was like, I think Jack's gonna vote for her.
Yeah.
I remember. So, Jack, you were the one who, I think you actually probably asked the most difficult question because you asked me what did I do better than Sarah, because you actually put it in kind of an ultimatum kind of way. I think you were like, tell me one thing that you did better than Sarah or you don't have my vote. Wasn't there like a kind of a threat thrown in there kind of thing? I remember being like, oh crap, here we go. And I couldn't answer you right away. And I said, I think I asked you if I could think about it for a minute. Because I didn't want to just throw up like, oh, I didn't want to say something stupid, basically, because that felt like kind of the thing that you needed. You needed the answer to that question to make a decision that you would feel good about. So I asked you to let me think about it. And then I answered about I felt like I had built up the persona of being like kind of the good girl that could do no wrong or no deceiving in any way. And
you answered that so well.
It was perfect, honestly.
And but I remember feeling like, because I think that someone might have actually asked another question and then I asked to come back to me so that I could answer yours. And I remember being really worried about the delay, like having to take some time, because that was something that I hadn't really thought through beforehand. And I remember being really worried. I was like, crap, like me taking so long to think about this is totally a turn off. And he's gonna not be super satisfied with whatever I say. But then I feel like I answered, and you kind of nodded your head, and I think that you received it in a way that made me think like, okay, that was a somewhat satisfactory answer. So I'm glad that I took the time rather than saying something dumb.
Yeah. And then Sam. So I feel like going in, Mike was probably the most inclined to vote for Mallory. He was like 100%. I was like 90%. Jack was like
75, maybe.
75.
Yeah,
okay.
or maybe 60. Somewhere in that range. But I was definitely like leaning towards it. But yeah.
Yeah, and then Sam, I feel like you were the least likely to vote for Mallory out of us four.
Yeah.
So what was it for you then?
I mean, definitely. I think that it was probably. It was very close to 50-50, maybe 51 Mallory, 49 Nick. Because I do feel like Nick did do a lot of things, and I like felt like in some ways I was like, well, I wanted to vote for Mallory more because I felt like you had much more control and influence over the game than Nick had, and I also like I just saw that you would just cause that tie vote, and that was really impressive to me. So I think those things made me want to vote for you, but I kind of felt like if Mallory is really good at articulating her strategy, then I'll vote for her. But like if she's not, then I like would have voted for Nick. So I felt like my whole vote was really dependent on who's able to articulate their strategy better. And I felt like in the final tribal, like Mallory definitely did that. I think the opening speech is what like did a huge thing and like swaying me. Like after the opening speech, I was like, that was an incredible speech. Like, wow, you were like, I think that the big thing is like making sure that you were like really like you were perceptive and like you actually knew what was going on. And when you gave your speech, it like basically confirmed like, wow, Mallory is very, very aware of like what her strategy was, where she stood in the game, and what kind of things she needed to get to the end. And then you're also aware of what things you need to say at the final tribal in order to win. So I felt like those things like show that you were very perceptive. Whereas, and that was what made me want to like vote for you, because I think that I kind of felt like, although Nick had worked really hard in the game, he wasn't as perceptive of how he was perceived by other people.
Yeah. If I can jump in, I think like one thing that I was definitely looking for, like going into it, was like a lot of people's arguments towards Nick was just like he cares so much about this game and like he's tried really hard, which both things are obviously very true. So I think one thing I was kind of looking for from you, Mallory, was that you did like really care about it, and you weren't just gonna kind of go up there and just be like, yeah, like I really like tried my hardest and like I had a good time like making friends with you guys. But I think you actually like coming in actually with the book, which you said you were like a little worried about, or like people might have been like taking it the wrong way. I think that was actually like a huge plus for me, and thinking like, wow, she's taking actually all this time to prepare for this, but she has this really, really good final tribal council speech all written out. Like that was like a huge plus for me out of the gate.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah, definitely. I also really liked how you talked about your growth. I think that was something that stood out to me, and just like how fast you were able to adapt, and like I feel like you're just as knowledgeable as us on this game now. So
Yeah.
But on some level, you don't really need to have Survivor specific knowledge to know what the right thing to do is in any given situation. Like, I might not know enough to know about the split vote that lights the torch that builds the fire to get to the thing. Like, I might not be able to put it in those words or in those terms, but like, I know enough to know that it's probably good to have more friends than enemies. And I know that it's probably good to ask people what they're thinking. And I also think that something that I could kind of use that maybe not a lot of people... I feel like this is actually something that Lucy could have done a lot more to improve her game, was like, ask people to teach you. One, it helps you... But, well, and I think that also because I genuinely... Like, I wasn't playing dumb. I actually was dumb on some level. And, like, seeing that as an opportunity... Because, I mean, people feel really empowered. And, I mean, and people like to feel like they're teaching others. Like, that's a good feeling to have. You feel like you're helping people, and two, like, it can kind of stroke your ego on some level, right? You get to demonstrate your intelligence. And so I felt like, was Lucy a Survivor fan, like, of the real show?
I think she had not seen any of seasons, so like at the time where season 2 started, like, she'd maybe seen a couple of episodes here and there and was like, oh, I know what Survivor is, that sounds so much fun. Like,
But I felt like something that she could have done more is like asking for help, to be honest. Like, and from a place of, I'm asking because I really don't know, not I'm asking to try and slit your throat later kind of thing. Because I think that people can also sense that. So yeah, that was something that I felt like I also wanted to, like, to your point, Sarah, about growth. I mean, so much of that was just being willing to let people teach me things. One, because like I do need to know if I'm gonna, like, I need to know what tribal council is, but the talks. So yes, the talks. I need to know that I shouldn't just blurt out who I'm planning on voting for in front of everyone. Probably not a good move. It also, oh my gosh, I'll never forget the moment when, I think it was like week 4 or 5 or something, when people told me that you can talk to the camera as you're voting. I've just been going out there writing someone's name down and getting out as quick as I can. People are like, oh, like, you can take your time.
Yeah, get the show over there.
Yeah, but like, I mean, it never occurred to me to say something as I was doing that. I was like, oh, that actually is a cool idea. And even like, you guys filming on spring break never occurred to me to like bring in my real life to this show. But like, people like that because people like real people. So yeah, I admire you guys for having that knowledge. So
thank you. And then I want to say one more thing that I really admired about you was that, like, you signed up to this thinking it was something completely different, and then when you found out it wasn't what you thought it was, you didn't, like, quit. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like you could have easily just been like, okay, well, then I'll just, like, not really care about this, or, like, I'll, like, quit. But instead, you became more invested.
Sorry, guys.
But instead, you treated it like a learning experience, and you still, like, immersed yourself into it. So I think that's really respectable.
Well, and I think, I mean, liking the people definitely helps. I mean, having people that make you want to stay around, like, I think that was really, really, and like, I really kind of, Survivor came into my life at a kind of the worst time ever, but also at kind of the best time ever, in a sense. Like, it was just a really great distraction from like, because I mean, it felt really serious and scary and intense and sad at times, but it was also a really kind of like fun, bright spot in the day. So
I remember how excited you were, like, watching when you'd won your first immunity. You're like, I just won immunity. Like, I can't believe it. Like, who would have ever thought that I would like people to do that, you know? Yeah. I remember, like, it is really cool seeing those moments where, like, you really exceed other people's expectations and your own expectations. And, like, I thought it was really cool to see you, like, experience that throughout the game. As you were like, wow, like, who would have ever thought that I would have made it this far? Or, like, you know?
Yeah. I remember also feeling really regretful about that though, because that challenge was on like a Tuesday or Wednesday, and I ran my marathon that Saturday, and did so much more running than I anticipated in that challenge. I took like 50,000 steps that day. Yeah. It was crazy.
It was a lot of running.
It was a lot of running. I just remember being like, gosh, like I totally just messed up my entire race plan trying to win this challenge. And I just got so embarrassingly sweaty. And I remember Cooper like putting the necklace around me, like trying to make minimal physical contact because of how gross it was. I was like, dude, like you don't need to put it on me. You can just hand it to me. And he's like, no, for the camera, I gotta do it. And I was like, I mean, okay, lean in there,
It's incredible.
man. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Didn't you like wear your immunity necklace to you're like, I remember in like one of your videos, you're like, oh, I should wear my immunity necklace to my marathon or something. So that was such a funny.
My mom had it at the finish. Well, and also I really regret not filming that. Like that would have been so.
That would have been awesome.
Yeah, that would have been great.
Oh yeah.
And the three of you, like, were aware enough to know that like these are kinds of moments that would really add a lot to your character, like on the show. And it never occurred to me to do that. And now that I know, and like after listening to this podcast and hearing about all the cool confessionals that you guys filmed, I'm like, dang, I really should have done more stuff like that. Regrets, man, regrets.
I mean, you can come back for All Stars one day. And,
come back.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yes. Well, I could drop out of current school and go to new school.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can just commute every day. It's fine.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, if you were to ever play again, like, what do you think you would do differently? Is there anything you'd do differently? Or, I mean, you can't really play up not knowing the game as much this time.
No, honestly, I think I would try to be maybe a little bit edgier. Maybe try, but I feel like there were the three of you being at kind of the forefront of this, like people who were drawing up plans and trying to arrange votes. And I honestly felt like it actually would have been kind of detrimental to my game to start trying to sway and plan votes at the end of the game, because I think that would have been like an oh crap, she's learned too much kind of thing, and like and is now threatening to me and now needs to go. Because I mean everyone loves an underdog story until the underdog starts messing up with the overdog. If that's
the dog, just the dog. Well, it's like we're a dog.
Dog's got to eat.
2 ticks above dog.
2 ticks above dog. Yes, exactly. So, like, I need to know enough to not be, like, an anchor to these people, but I don't want to know enough to be... I don't want to come off like I know enough to be someone who's going to rock the boat and come off as schemy behind people's backs kinds of thing.
Yeah.
And, but I feel like if I were to play again, I would probably try to be more of the person who's a little bit edgier and trying to arrange different kinds of votes. And honestly, like, I think I would probably... because I had such a full experience my first time around, it wouldn't really break my heart to
get votes.
Yeah, well, to get votes and like play really hard and like not make the merge. Like I don't think I would be I don't think I would be heartbroken
because you already won.
I mean, not even that, but like the fact that I not so much winning, but like making it far into the game and like far enough to feel like I had actually grown in the way that I wanted to and learned what I wanted to. Like, because I mean, honestly, like if I would have been voted out final 6, final 5, I think I would still walk away from it feeling like, wow, I came what I set out to do. I didn't really have expectations going into this, but whatever expectations I should have had, I feel like I met, and I'm going to be satisfied with the outcome from this point on. So, yeah, second time would probably be a little more footloose and fancy free, I guess.
Oh my gosh, I'd love to see that.
I love that phrase.
Yeah.
Footloose and fancy free.
Savage Mallory. Yeah.
So, the votes are coming in.
Yep.
And it ties. Did you know for sure it was me, Jack, and Sam who had voted for you, or did you think any possibility someone else had flipped during that? Like, what were your thoughts?
Honestly, no, I was pretty sure it was the three. Because again, like, do you really think Abby's gonna flip? Like, no, Abby's not gonna flip. Maggie and Nick bonded over Cardi B, which is the bond that transcends all bonds. So no way is that getting through there. Brie, I just think like I just never was able to win her over, and I was also one of the primary people that orchestrated getting her out, so that wasn't going to happen. And again, Chidi only talked to Nick in the game,
Right.
So I was 99%
You're like,
sure.
Yeah.
Actually, if I could like jump back just like a minute from that, like what did you think were the odds that you had 4 votes? Like when Cooper said, I'll go tally the votes. Like what do you think that you actually had won us over, or do you think like there's a chance, or what?
I was probably 30%.
Okay.
Sure. I guess I don't know if that's the right percentage number, but I was confident that it was going to be close-ish.
Okay.
I didn't expect it to be 6-2, but I didn't expect it to be tied. So maybe I was expecting like 5-3. I would have.
Okay.
Because it feels sad to say, but like I was pretty confident that Lucy wasn't going to get any votes.
Yeah.
So I was like, the votes are going to be somehow split between Nick and I. And so I think anywhere in the 5-3 to 4-4. Yeah, I was probably expecting that.
Okay. And then when Lucy goes to vote, what did you think about that?
I actually, didn't she say something in Final Tribal? Like,
You're
yes,
right.
Bree's question.
Somebody asked.
It was Bree.
Asked, who would you vote for out of Mallory and Nick? And she said Mallory.
Yeah.
So then, they did that.
That's how we all literally knew that if it tied, Mallory was basically going to win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but I remember, I think you might even be able to see this, I was kind of looking at Nick and mouthing, like, you're okay, you're going to win, it's fine, keep your pants on, it'll be great. And then, the vote came back as tie, and I was like, oh, dang. Pants off, yep, fire's lit. This is, so, I didn't really look at him after that. Like but I could kind of see out of the corner of my eye, like his head just like kind of fell forward, and he was shaking his head. And honestly, I cannot deny that there was guilt in that moment, because he played so hard and wanted this so much, and I also, and this really isn't to shame anyone, but I kind of felt. And maybe this was just me projecting, but I kind of felt like the producers were sort of disappointed in the outcome of the season on some level. And again, I'm really like, I'm not saying this to get like pity or like be self-deprecating, but I did feel on some level that they were kind of like wah wah kind of thing. And
survivor's guilt, literally.
Yes.
Oh.
And so honestly, like, as when Lucy was going to vote, there was kind of this initial little like, oh no, like I did this. This is this doesn't feel right, because Nick is really sad and Akshay's not winking at me, and it's just this feels kind of icky. And then the vote came back, and it was just kind of disbelief. So
So I guess you kind of answered what it felt like to win. You felt like a little guilty, a little like shocked. Yeah.
It's a lonely it's lonely up there at the top, Mallory. Trotsky's the only other person that understands what it's like. So
well, and I don't
was
know.
He there?
He was there, and I don't remember I don't know if you guys knew, because I remember we were always asking the producers that played season 1, like, what happened on their season, and they were pretty secretive about. I felt like they kept it pretty under wraps for most of our season, but then I kind of felt like people were starting to pull little segments of the story out. But I had no idea that Tarowski had won season 1, and he was at Final Tribal, and he kind of, again, person that I did not know, kind of walks up to me and sounds like stranger danger, kind of scary, but not
quite scary, dude.
But he walks up to me and holds out his hand to shake it, and so I was like, yeah, I'll shake your hand. Strange.
Probably like, thought it was so cool.
It's like maybe he was a fellow time traveler, just like trying to look for a companion in the modern day. Yeah. So.
Do you remember if he was wearing shorts? Like, did that have something to do with intimidation?
How were his legs
no, his legs did not eclipse my view. I don't remember. I think he was wearing pants. Yeah. So he comes up and shakes my hand and says, "Congratulations." And I said, "Oh, thank you." And I think he just said, "I'm Alex Tarowski." And in the back of my mind, I'm like,
I love that.
That's great. Like,
thank you.
Congratulations, Alex Tarowski. That's an awesome name you have. Yeah. And I think that I honestly feel like it might have been Brittany actually that came up when it started you're like, "That's the winner of season 1." And I was like, okay, here we go. And yeah, and someone was like, "Oh, can we get a picture of the two of you?" And I was like, "Sure."
You have this picture?
Yeah. Well, I don't have this picture, but I just remember being
oh my gosh.
And I also remember looking at him, and again, like I hadn't, like no one had watched season 1. Season 1 hadn't come out at that point, so I had no idea who this person was. But just the more, again, listening to the podcast and just learning about how and like the interview that you guys did with him, like how sophisticated and elaborate his gameplay was, and like how deserving of a winner that he was. I'm just like, I do not deserve to be associated with you. Like, this is...
Yes, you do.
Yes, you do.
I mean,
literally.
You guys are different winners, but both very deserving.
Yeah. I mean,
for sure.
Yeah, I'm becoming increasingly comfortable with this. I mean, and I actually remember... Is Mitch and Ross, too?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mitch goes up to me and goes, "You're putting that on your resume, right?" And I was like,
"Stop." He did not do that.
Sure.
That's so funny.
Well, and I didn't put like how the show went, but I put like, I think in the like affiliation club section. Yeah. I put Survivor Michigan on there. And I put that on my medical school application, and I did talk about it in interviews.
Brittany did that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
so funny.
I mean, people were very intrigued. I think most of the people that asked about it, most of the interviews that asked about it weren't really like super fans of the show, but they were kind of vaguely familiar with it. And they were like, that's the one where you like go to an island, right? And I'm like, well, in this case, I went to Mason Hall, but you know, same difference. Yeah.
What do you think was Survivor worth it for you? Survivor Michigan, yeah, was very worth it for me. And I guess kind of thinking back to it, I really and again listening to you guys in the way that you, I feel like a lot of people did a really good job of keeping their personal lives personal from like there was kind of like game life and real life in a sense. Yeah.
And those lines got kind of blurry at times, but I felt listening to you guys talk about how much of your life you infused into the game and like how you let like other, like, cause the three of you became such close friends outside of the game and how you, I mean, Sarah, you talking about that really vulnerable moment of just sharing like things in life were really, really difficult outside of the game. And the fact that Sam and Jack were true friends to you during that time. And I think I filmed a confessional about how I felt like I couldn't bring my own personal struggles just because it didn't really feel like there was a lot of space for it. And like, honestly, like that's not what I felt like the game was built for. And no one was saying like, how dare you bring your personal life into this? There's no interest in that. So it wasn't anything that anyone did that made me feel that way. But I think that maybe I would have brought a lot more of myself into the game from outside the game, because I think that would have helped people understand where I was coming from a bit more. And even just like I was always the person that had problems scheduling things. Like I was the when is good demon basically. Like, how many red cells can I make? And so and I think that and like even just telling the producers what was going on in my life that was making it so complicated and difficult to get time for. I mean, like, I was applying, like I took the MCAT the first week of the game. And
that's crazy.
Training for a marathon. I had just started a long distance dating relationship.
Oh my gosh.
That was great. And like, I can share about this here. My dad had actually passed away 3 months before the game started in October of 2017, and the game started January of 2018. And
That's really tough.
Yeah.
And so having a lot of like really intense personal grief to go through, in addition to medical school stuff, running stuff, school stuff, friend stuff, life stuff, it was just kind of like, I'm really sorry that I didn't get to your one as good because I was doing other things. And I felt like if I had brought that more into the game, that it would have maybe broadened, like maybe made me a more like colorful character, I guess.
Yeah. Wow, you had so much going on that semester. I remember you telling me about like, I think your final thesis that you were you had to write coming up.
Yeah,
You're
writing my
preparing
thesis.
for.
Yeah. I can also understand how on some levels it might feel like awkward to bring all these personal things going on in your life into like something that you didn't consider to be real life, you know?
Yeah.
Like I can definitely see how like you wouldn't want to like trivialize things by like bring it into the camera and into the game and into like the show, you know? So I can also definitely see how like it's a very difficult thing to balance. I mean, you know, because it's real life because it's real relationships, but it's also not real life, and it's like where's that balance, you know?
Yeah, but Sam, and you brought up your uncle, and I mean, in so many ways, you played your game for him because he was so much of building your passion for it, and that was so beautiful. Like I remember, like that felt like such a gift that you were vulnerable enough to bring that into the game, and I felt like that really endeared you to the viewers, and the fact that the season kind of felt like it was dedicated to him on some level, like that was so awesome, and I was so thankful that you did that. And
thank you.
I don't know how I would have done that from my perspective. Like that's something that I can have, I guess, mental dialogue about on some level. But yeah, like part of me does kind of think, like maybe if I would have been a little bit more vulnerable with those things, like how that would have changed the outcome, or just, I don't know, like let people in more, made the experience even more. Because again, it was such a full experience, and I feel like it just was really awesome and a great journey on a lot of levels. And I wonder if that only would have added to it, like bringing that stuff in.
Yeah.
So
I'm really glad that you're able to share all that now. Like, I think I definitely didn't know all the stuff that you were going through at the time. Like, I knew a couple of things. Like, I knew you were big on, like, the medical stuff. But, like, I definitely didn't know about your dad at all. And I think when we were playing, a lot of the times it just seems really game body. Because, like, we'll meet and then talk about strategy. And it seems like that's kind of all we talk about.
yeah.
But I think, like, especially after the game has ended, it's been, like, easier for us to talk about non-survivor things.
Yeah.
And I know even during the game, the three of us were talking about non-survivor things. So I think it was just, like, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, there's a time and place for everything. And I also didn't feel like people were telling you to, like, can you stop with all of the, like, banter and get to the game stuff? It never felt like there was any pressure on that front. So, like, it's not a, gosh, like, I felt so, like, sheltered and shamed and all of these things.
Yeah.
Like, it's not that, like, I made a decision not to do that. Like, that was my choice.
Yeah.
Honestly, the closest that I ever came to spilling all of those things was actually with Sarah Avery at Starbucks.
Really?
One time.
Really?
It was because she was getting really, really, we filmed a little bit and then we stopped filming because she wanted to talk about some more personal things. But I was so close to just letting it all out, like really intentionally being like, okay, there's a time and place for everything, and this probably isn't the time and place. And also, like, she's going through a really hard time, so I don't want to add stuff to that. So
Yeah.
And that's honestly, like, you know, it's kind of amazing to hear, because I felt like I almost, like, spoke the most with you and just, like, genuine stuff, like, through conversations. Like, it felt like a lot of times you meet with people, you'd have, like, 5 minutes of just, like, at least for me, like, people just be like, oh, like, how was class, blah, blah, blah. And it's almost both of you, like, staring at the clock until you can start talking about Survivor. But I remember there was a lot of times with you just, like, sitting in the basement of Espresso Royale or whatever, we would just, like, talk about random stuff and end up being, like, and like it would just like mix in with the game stuff and stuff, and then like we ended up like not filming for 45 minutes because I thought it was just whenever we're going to talk about, you know, start filming, we talk about Survivor, and then all of a sudden, there's nothing on film. So I felt bad that there were sometimes I feel like you could have had more on the show if like more of those types of conversations were filmed, but it was just like I don't know,
And that was also kind of a unique part of being someone who wasn't really seen as a super duper strategist, was that there wasn't that pressure to talk a lot of game. And honestly, that might have served me well in the end, was that
I think it definitely did.
Yeah. Like there wasn't pressure to, hurry up and get to the game stuff, because if we can talk for 45 minutes about life, that honestly probably made me more valuable to people than any super strategy that I would have come up with. So different strokes for different folks, man.
Yeah, definitely. Wow. Valerie, we need to talk more.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, this has really made me realize how much I miss talking to you. It has, like, just brought back all the reasons why I voted for you.
Exactly.
Why I liked you so much as an ally. And I'm just like, thank you for coming on this podcast.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And like the fact that you know our inside jokes helps so much.
Oh my gosh, it's the best.
I will never apologize for voting for Mallory. It is exactly what I wanted to do, and this whole thing has exactly confirmed why Mallory is a deserving winner.
Oh, you are too
and
sweet.
to all the hate comments, you don't know Mallory.
Yeah.
That's all I know.
If you still don't realize why we voted for Mallory after listening to this whole podcast, then you can't.
Don't have a heart.
Gosh, this is another reason why the 1600s was so wonderful. No hate comments. Like, if people were mad at you, they just burned your house down or something like that. And then you knew it was all very straightforward.
Right.
Yeah, there's no hate comments. There's no trolls. Yeah. Wow.
There's trolls living under the bridges, but you know.
Right.
Simpler times, man. Simpler times.
Can I ask one thing of you, Mallory?
Yes, sir.
Can you watch season 3 episodes so we can have you back on the podcast when season 3
Oh my god!
Yeah.
I would love to. Yes, I can do some more research into actually watching the show, so I have more specific points. Well, I mean, that would be so cool to actually maybe be able to talk some real game with you guys. Like actually, I can practice my. I don't know.
My
Survivor thinking.
The things that you've learned.
Yeah. Oh, the other thing, the astrology stuff.
Wait, you're an Earth sign.
Yeah.
Does that mean that I'm super grounded and just very in touch with the leaves and trees and all the things?
It's why Maggie gave you that book, because Maggie had a special connection to you. She was like,
gosh, if she would have written horoscope again, I was a sponge to her. I would have absorbed anything that she said. She could have tarot card educated me, all the things. Like, honestly, I'd probably be a psychic right now.
You would.
Yeah.
Like what about med school? You'd totally be a psychic.
Yeah, seriously. Like, who needs doctors when there are palm readers? I mean, come on.
Exactly.
So true.
You would surpass Levana as the resident.
Oh my gosh!
Instead of being in med school at Brittany, you'd be in psychic school with Levana.
Yeah.
I wonder. Levana was an
go to
actress,
Hogwarts
right?
with Levana.
Yeah, she
she
was
still
an
is.
actress.
Okay.
Oh my gosh! Because is she still in school?
Yeah.
I
saw her.
I feel like
weekend.
she's high key gonna make it big. She'll be an A-lister.
Oh my gosh! Wow. Coming to a theater near you.
Yeah.
Oh man.
All right. Thank you for being a wonderful guest.
Oh yeah, this was
this was great.
It was so fun to talk to you guys. Oh, another question that I have to ask. Is the market a euphemism for something? I have to know.
So Jack is usually the one who's tough to get
I'm the Mallory of the witness good of Creepy Coach Live.
Yes. All
and
the
like
red
one
cells.
time. One time he like legitimately was like, I'm at the market with Kat. Like he said that a couple times. And so we turned that into a joke. Like whenever someone's not available, we'll be like, they're at the market.
Yes.
It's like a euphemism for adulthood.
I'm going to the DMV or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
All right. Well, I hope you enjoy your time off. Your well-deserved time off.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for taking the time. This was awesome.
Of course.
Yeah.
Anytime.
Literally anytime.
Yeah.
You can just be the fourth Keep Your Torch Lit member if you want. I'm fine with that.
The picture of you guys on the icon is the best.
That's true.
We'll prop you in. It's fine.
All right. Bye, Mallory.
Bye, Mallory.
Bye, guys.
I miss Mallory already. Wow.
Yeah.
Maybe she doesn't know everything about the game, but she has extremely good survivor instincts.
She has such good instincts. Oh my god.
Yeah. I hopefully you guys are able to see a little more into like what is Mallory. I think that pretty much depicts how a conversation with Mallory usually went. I mean, she's a very, very, very magnetic person. Makes you feel good after you talk to her.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, I don't think a lot of her personality was shown in the season, but hopefully this podcast gave you a better understanding of like what she's about, why we all love her so much, and yeah, in general, just thank you for tuning in to our podcast every week. I really hope you enjoyed season 2. We'll probably be back with another epilogue episode.
Yes.
And yeah, I mean, more exciting things to come. There are plenty of other seasons that we'll be covering.
We're not going anywhere, so don't you worry.
Yeah.
Our torches will stay lit.
Our torches will stay lit. Keep your torch lit, guys. Everyone should go buy a tiki torch and like light it tonight.
Yeah.
That's what I gotta say.